Today on the Deep Dive, we're going into a really disturbing story. The kidnapping and captivity of Colleen Stan.
Yeah, and we're talking about 7 years.
7 years. It's almost, well, unimaginable, really. And the truly unsettling part, I think, is how she was often confined.
In that box.
In a box, yeah, hidden beneath a waterbed.
It's a case that, it really stays with you, precisely because it's so extreme.
Right.
The sheer length of time, the method of confinement. It highlights not just the cruelty, but also, the complex psychological stuff going on for everyone involved.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to try and understand the key events, the psychology behind it all. We're using excerpts from a fictional podcast, Shiver Stream Stories, which it actually draws on this real horrific experience based on the real events.
Now, I do want to be upfront with you listening. The details we're going to discuss are, they're deeply disturbing. It's not easy listening.
No, definitely not. But understanding these kinds of events, not for shock value, but to grasp the complexities of trauma and control. I think that's really important.
Agreed. So, where do we start? The beginning.
Yeah, let's start right at the beginning. May 1977.
Okay. So Colleen Stan, she's 20 years old then, and she's hitchhiking, trying to get from Oregon down to California for a friend's birthday.
Just shows how quickly something totally ordinary like catching a ride can just turn terrifying.
Absolutely. And the couple who picked her up, Cameron and Janice Hooker, they seemed okay at first.
That's the chilling part, isn't it? Described as like clean cut. They even had a baby with them in the back seat.
Yeah, that image of normalcy, it's just awful when you know what happened next.
It really is. I mean, a baby in the car, you automatically sort of relax, don't you?
You do. It creates this false sense of security. It was completely deceptive. The podcast excerpt really emphasizes that feeling she probably had initially, just, feeling safe.
But then, about an hour into the drive, that feeling just gets shattered.
Yeah, they pull off the highway onto some deserted road.
And that's where he used it. This homemade wooden head box. Soundproof.
Just try to imagine that. 1 minute you're in a car, maybe making small talk. The next, boom, total darkness, total silence. You're completely at their mercy.
The psychological impact. Instantly.
Yeah.
What would that even be like? That sensory deprivation.
Oh, it would be devastating. Utterly disorienting. Overwhelming terror, really. You can't see, can't hear, can't even scream properly. Any sense of control, any ability to resist, just gone.
Wiped out.
Instantly. And that just lays the groundwork for the control that followed.
And that control, it continued when they took her to their home, Red Bluff, California, and confined her in the box.
And this wasn't metaphorical.
No, a literal coffin-like wooden box under their waterbed.
And Cameron Hooker, the descriptions paint him as a sexual sadist, obsessed with domination, with torture. It's just a bleak, bleak picture of what she was facing.
What's also really significant here, I think, is understanding the dynamic between the Hookers themselves, Janice and Cameron.
Right. The podcast material details this supposed deal Janice made. She'd allow Cameron to have a, quote, sex slave as long as he didn't involve her physically.
Wow. That suggests such a disturbing level of complicity and this really warped attempt by Janice to draw a line in their own, incredibly messed up relationship.
All at Colleen's expense, her extreme detriment.
And this box,
the
physical reality of it is just horrifying.
23 hours a day.
For years.
Yeah.
In total darkness. And the temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer.
It's almost impossible to really grasp the combined damage. Physical, psychological, that kind of confinement, it just breaks you down.
The constant sensory deprivation, the lack of space, the heat.
Yeah.
Physically debilitating.
Absolutely. But alongside that, you've got the constant psychological abuse, the starvation, the beatings, the fear, always fear. That's just as destructive, maybe even more so. Systematically breaking down her sense of self, her will.
And then there was that.
Yeah.
That slave contract she was forced to sign.
Yeah.
It's such a chilling detail. It really hammers home Cameron's need for absolute control, the complete dehumanization.
Forcing her to sign that. It's a powerful symbol, isn't it? A tangible marker of her subjugation.
Right.
It goes beyond just locking her up. It's like this formal, coerced agreement to being enslaved. It probably just deepened that sense of hopelessness. Like, this isn't temporary. This is my reality now. Makes escape seem even more unthinkable.
And coupled with that was the elaborate lie about the company.
Ah, yes.
The powerful secret organization watching her. threatening to kill her family if she ever tried to escape.
But she believed it. That's crucial.
She really believed it.
Yeah, it wasn't just the physical box holding her captive. It was this meticulously built psychological prison.
Built on fear, misinformation.
Exactly. It was sophisticated mind control, really, isolating her mentally, creating this invisible barrier to escape, even if maybe later a physical chance came up. It just shows the power of belief, even if it's based on a total lie.
And it seems like it worked incredibly well. Around the third year, the podcast excerpt mentions this shift in Colleen. The resistance just faded.
Stopped, yeah.
What was happening there psychologically?
Well, it's heartbreaking, but that stopping of resistance, it's a tragically common response to intense, prolonged trauma. It's not really about giving up willfully. It's more likely what psychologists sometimes call learned helplessness.
Okay.
After years of just relentless abuse, feeling like nothing she did mattered, her mind might have just shifted into survival mode, where resisting seemed pointless, a kind of psychological shutdown.
And after that shift, the way she was confined changed a bit, didn't it?
It did. She was allowed out of the box more, for limited periods.
To do chores, cook, even sleep outside the box, though still chained under the bed.
Right. It wasn't freedom, not even close. But it was a change.
What was the point of that, do you think, from Cameron's perspective?
Well, this limited freedom, it was probably another calculated move. More manipulation.
How so?
By giving these tiny little breaks, he could reinforce the idea that her survival, any tiny comfort she got, depended entirely on him, on his whim. It creates this really strong cycle of dependence. Any small kindness, however pathetic, feels like a reward. It just cements his control further, makes the idea of escaping on her own even more terrifying.
It's almost unbelievable. He even took her to visit her family during this time.
Yeah, that part is truly difficult to comprehend.
And she acted. Well, the sources say completely normal, smiling in photos, didn't ask for help, even though her family apparently had suspicions. It just shows the depth of that psychological grip. She actually went back with him willingly. How do you even explain that?
That willingness to return. It speaks volumes, doesn't it? About how deep the brainwashing went, the fear of the company, yeah, but also years of manipulation, the total destruction of her self-worth.
Right.
It created this powerful internal barrier, preventing her from seeking help, even when, the door was technically open for a moment. Her whole perception of reality was so twisted that going back might have actually felt, bizarrely, like the safest option.
Safer than the unknown or the threat of the company.
Exactly, however illogical that sounds to us on the outside.
But thankfully, after 2,538 days, the nightmare did end.
It did, in 1984.
Janice Hooker apparently had a change of heart. The story goes she was scared Cameron might get another girl, or maybe even kill Colleen.
Yeah, her motivations then are probably complex. Fear for Colleen, maybe, but maybe also fear for herself. What the consequences might be if Cameron kept escalating.
Right.
The podcast might give more specifics on what she said her reasons were. But whatever the mix, her decision to finally confess, to help Colleen, that was the key. That's what led to the escape.
And that led to Cameron Hooker's arrest. He's convicted kidnapping, sexual assault, and got a sentence of 104 years.
A long sentence.
But Janice, she got full immunity for testifying against him. That's a point that often comes up, isn't it? It raises questions.
It really does. It's a contentious part of the whole case. I mean, her testimony was absolutely crucial to convict Cameron, to end Colleen's ordeal. No doubt about that. But granting full immunity to someone who was, let's face it, complicit in years of horrific abuse, it sparks major ethical debates, legal debates too, about justice, accountability. Was the conviction worth letting her walk away with no legal consequences for her part? People have very different views on that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Colleen's escape itself.
Yeah.
It wasn't like in the movies, was it? No dramatic rescue.
Yeah.
The podcast excerpt notes, like, no headlines, no police storming the place. She just walked out after all that time.
2,538 days.
The description of her afterwards. A living ghost. It's just devastating. Speaks volumes about the trauma.
It really does. It's such a poignant way to put it. It shows the deep, lasting damage. Coming out of something like that, the wounds, physical and psychological, they run so much deeper than anything you can see. Rebuilding a life after that kind of trauma. It's almost unimaginable how hard that must be.
So, as we wrap up our thinking on Colleen Stan's story, what's the core message for you? The main takeaway?
For me, it starkly shows the terrifying reality of unseen prisons. Not made of bars, but built inside the mind. Through manipulation, through fear, through systematically stripping away someone's autonomy.
Right.
It just underscores how power and control can be used to create a captivity that's every bit as devastating as being locked in a physical cell.
And the sheer length of it.
Yeah.
7 years. While the world outside just carried on, completely unaware of the nightmare happening inside that, ordinary-looking suburban house.
Exactly. It forces you to think about that huge gap that can exist between how things look on the surface and the hidden reality underneath.
This case just shatters that comfortable idea that extreme horror only happens, like in dark alleys or in movies.
Right. The fact that this happened, as the podcast puts it, behind a white picket fence, it's a chilling reminder. Profound suffering can be hidden right there, in plain sight. And our assumptions about safety, about normalcy, they can be tragically wrong.
It definitely leaves you with a really disturbing thought, doesn't it? How often might unseen suffering be happening all around us, masked by normalcy, hidden from view? It really makes you question everything you assume about safety, about trust in the everyday world, something to really mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Please subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to create even more great content for you. Thank you so much.